guys, welcome to another episode of my We Are Never Truly Alone podcast with Tiffany Rice. This week, so excited, I have my good friend, motivational speaker and paranormal rock star, Dustin Pari on. We are going to be talking all about things that pretty much like what's next for us, right? So welcome, Dustin. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Very well. Thanks for having me here.
I'm so excited that you're here. Dustin and I have been friends for God knows how long.
Long time.
A long time. And we got connected through the paranormal because you guys that are listening, you know that the paranormal is true and near to my heart. So I was able to meet Dustin. And upon meeting Dustin, I ended up realizing that you had such a inspirational vibration to you. And I'm not just saying that, but I just thought you were going to be this guy that just went and chased ghosts. And I didn't know, right? Because
that's what a lot of us are, though, right? I mean, there's a lot of people, that's all you do. It's like, I've always tried to be more than a one-trick pony, you know?
Yep.
But it makes sense, though, right? Like the paranormal, like we're talking to spirits, but we're still spirits going through this human experience. So trying to get through this life together is something that we need a little help with. Exactly.
And so when you started to open up with your spirituality and just, I know at the time I was kind of going through a breakup, you guys know, I was probably going through some weird breakup or something like that. And when Dustin came into my life, he gave me such good perspective.
Thank you.
So, I figured our listeners today, whether they're driving to work or driving home from work, wherever they may be, I think one thing as humans we get caught up on is actually just focusing in on, it's like we have this imaginary list of expectations that we have for ourselves.
Right.
And for some, it may be just getting a full-time job. For others, it might be training to run a marathon, and then once we finish whatever we want, then we're always thinking like, what's next? What's next for us? What is it that we need to do? Yeah. So I'm always trying to tell people, be present in the moment, but I would be lying if I said that I don't struggle with that too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you actually have a book called What's Next.
Right. Yeah. So What's Next for me was important because it's good to want to achieve more, right? But I mean, it's totally our nature to be like, okay, I've got this checklist. I want to do this. And as soon as we get to one, we hardly enjoy the moment because we're like, okay, now I can go do the next thing. And but it's important that we do move ourselves forward. Definitely be present in the moment and celebrate the little victories that we have. Because sometimes that big goal, I mean, to be quite honest, sometimes we never get to that big goal.
I know.
Right?
And that's a reality, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's almost setting realistic expectations for ourselves too.
Right. And knowing that it's okay that if you don't reach that big goal, all those little things that happen along the path, those little moments, those little victories add up to something that may be even greater.
Right.
And what we thought we had to accomplish may not have been our actual purpose at all.
Right.
That may have just been the thing that we had to aim toward to check all these other boxes, all the other ripple effects, all the people's lives that we come in contact with, all those special moments that we thought we were just kind of along the wayside. Those end up being the most important things,
Yes.
And that's why I try to remember too. So even when I was writing What's Next, which was following me on trying to find another TV show, that was my thing. Like, okay,
because you're on a TV show.
Yeah.
I just see you as like one of my good friends. But if you guys have heard of Dustin Pari was on a TV show.
Yeah, we did Ghost Hunters, and then we did Ghost Hunters International. And after 2 years of being on the road, I mean, so thankful. Like 27 countries. Like I'm hanging out in Paris. I'm hanging out in England. I'm over in Ireland. Like by far, it's like, it sounds like a romantic dream job.
Right.
It was a lot of sacrifice. You're on the road a lot. You're in crappy hotels. It's like, yeah, I'm in Paris, but I'm not like right in Paris. I'm Paris adjacent, So it's like, it's still great, but you get tired and it gets tough. And after 2 years of doing that, I just wanted to try to find something that I had more control over and that was going to be better for me and for my family. And so that's what my What's Next was for that time. But, kind of like, it's funny too, because I used to work in television for production, and I always liked documentary film. And the one thing I liked about documentary film is, just like our lives, you think you know what the agenda is. Like, we're going to film this sequence, we're going to continue on this path, but then there's a story arc that happens somewhere around there that wasn't what you intended, that ends up being 10 times better anyway.
Right.
And so that's, while I was writing What's Next, that's kind of what happened. You know, I didn't achieve the goals I thought I was going to achieve, but the other stuff was much more meaningful. And that's why I wanted to write that and put it out there for people to see. Like, listen, sometimes it's just the journey. It really is. And that's our life. It's going through it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and just trying to find a way forward. And sometimes it's a step back first, but it doesn't mean we have to give up.
Well, we always want that instant gratification, right? So I always relate it back to baking a cake. Like, I feel like I say this all the time.
Yes.
I like cake too, but you get the ingredients to bake a cake, right? And you mix it in the bowl, you put it in the oven. Within 5 minutes, your house is gonna smell like a dream-like state of cake. And you're going to want to take that cake out of the oven. But you can't, because if you take the baking cake out of the oven after 5 minutes, it is not going to taste what it smells like.
Right.
So you have to wait the 40, 50 minutes, however long it takes to bake a cake, for it to actually come into fruition. So you have to enjoy it. And maybe just that scent of that cake is tantalizing you a little bit to make you have the patience, because you just know if you just wait a little bit longer how good it's going to get. And it really will be as good as you're going to get as long as you set your intentions on a path of, really putting it out there. What's meant for me will be. I'm huge into that philosophy, even though it's tough, right?
That waiting is awful.
The waiting is awful. The patience is awful. And they say patience is a virtue, but I'm sure everybody that's listening right now is thinking like, okay, but what do we do? Like, what do you do in that in-between time? Because we can't twiddle our thumbs. We can, but only for so long. And then, okay, we'll journal, we'll do this, we'll do that. But at the same time, like, what do you personally do? What's something that you do that you kind of hold on to as far as helping you with having that patience as you're going through what the universe is going to provide you?
Yeah, well, I try to be always cognizant of where I am in my journey. Try to celebrate those little victories that are coming in those moments. And I try not to stay distracted per se, because I also want to be aware of everything that's going on. But finding little like side projects, little day trips. Like, I love just going out and hiking or walking. Like, you don't have to go like climb a mountain, but just being outside. I find that being in nature and any place that makes me feel small is important. I think that we get so sucked into our own lives, right? Like, we're looking at our phones, we're in control of our social media, we're in control of whatever, and we are the most, important thing in this moment.
Right.
But going out and like walking in the woods and standing amongst huge trees and looking up at the sky, or going and sit by the ocean at night, any place that makes you feel small really helps to put perspective on really where we are. We don't have control of most of the crap we think we do.
Exactly. We always want to have control, but we don't.
We don't have it. And it's okay. But I think celebrating that moment and finding that little pocket of peace, that little bit of quietness where you're like, yeah, this is okay. And it helps to kind of assuage all those big problems. Because when you're in that type of larger environment, when you're in that larger in life environment, it makes things feel so much less, so small. Like, the big problems that we thought we had suddenly drift away a bit, And during this, we're passing time, we're working ourselves, and we're preparing our spiritual selves for what's coming, for what's next for us. Because a lot of the stuff we're not aware of. We don't know what's coming. We think we do, we want to, and we're like, oh yeah, this is going to happen. I'm going to work on this and this. And then we get swerved into some weird side thing. And that's okay, And
I want to rewind for a minute and just say, like, you just said something that hit me. We are preparing our spiritual selves. And that is exactly what it is. Yeah. It's, guys, we want everything right away, but you also have to remember the universe is always teaching us the bigger picture and teaching us our lessons. And if we just kept on getting things, if things was that easy, we would have no time to appreciate things. So it's really those in-between times. I really do feel like it's a lesson for us to take a step back and go deeper into wherever it is that you need to be. Maybe it's going on a hike, going to the beach, and just really seeing how amazing it is that we're actually just standing on this earth. Right.
Yeah, indeed. What's sad is technology has really kind of ruined us in the fact that we've become like an instantaneous like society. We want instant gratification. You want something, you go on Amazon, in 2 days or less, it's at your door. You don't even see a person, a robot freaking delivers it, whatever it is.
Right.
You pay the money and all of a sudden it's here. But like, think about I think about Christmas a lot. I love Christmas, right?
Okay, yep.
I think about Christmas from when I was a kid, like counting down, like the Advent calendar, the buildup of it. Like, this is going to happen. This is going to be great. And then, like, you finally get to Christmas Day, and like it's a great thing. But then there's that day after Christmas, and that day after Christmas feeling kind of sucks, you know, because now everything you waited for, you've had, and now it's over. So it's really, the gratification really comes from the time that we endure getting to that point. We build it up in our heads of how wonderful it's going to be. And yeah, we enjoy it when we finally get there. But if it was just given to us right away, if everything you wanted you could have tomorrow, within 2 days, you'd want something else. You know, it's just,
there's so many of us out there that I get stuck in that momentum of, oh yeah, I'm just going to order it. And you're right. Like there's no, you don't even have time for anticipation.
Right. Yeah, no, you don't, because it's already there. It's already given to you, you know, and like even our personal relationships and everything. I mean, I've been married for a long time, so I haven't experienced this in a long time, at least maybe in different ways. But like, you know, when you first start dating someone, you first meet somebody, you have expectations about where this could go, where this could grow into, and then you want to enjoy that journey. If it was like you met somebody, the next day you were married, you had 3 kids, or whatever the hell the dream was, you'd be like, well, I kind of missed out on all the other things, you know, the romance, the quiet moments, even the struggles, the fights and things where you learn about each other and you learn about yourself. Those things matter, and they happen for a reason.
Exactly.
If it was just given to you like the moment you want it, it's like, it kind of sucks in like 2 or 3 days later, you know?
And they always say too, is that you should spend at least 4 seasons with that person that you choose to be your partner.
Yeah. And some seasons alone, you know, like honestly, I grew up basically an only child. Like I like being by myself. There's a huge difference in being alone and feeling lonely. You know, we look at like the etymology of the word of alone. It comes from all is one. Like everything is here that you need. Your spiritual self is enough. You've been given the gifts that you need to get through this world. But we've become kind of guided in our thoughts that we need to have all these other things. We need these other people. We need that checklist of all this stuff.
Right.
It's like you're not ready for anybody else until you're aware of who you are.
Exactly.
And it takes a while to get there. And you could run away and get married or whatever the hell it is you want to do, and then end up feeling really lonely surrounded by other people. And that's the worst thing, because you haven't had time to figure out who you are. You haven't had time to figure out what you want to be for somebody else and what you want that person to be for you. So you just need to go through that step. And it's a hell of a journey, and it's full of pain and scars and a lot of BS, but there's a lot of joy in there too.
Right. Are you guys listening out? Like I'm like, go on, Dustin. Like because you're totally speaking my language. I get it. I totally get it, because we are so just conditioned to, even in relationships, let's hurry up. Let's do, like, oh, everybody else is getting married, everybody else is having kids. Let's go ahead and do it, you know? And you know, I think sometimes learning to learn who we are and do the healing work, because we all have some sort of healing that we need to do, right? From our experiences. Like people just tend to rush. And then the other whole thing is finding that partner that doesn't want to rush with you either. So it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm whole, you know, and I'm in union with myself. So hopefully I will attract a partner that is the same and not wanting to rush.
Yeah. And if you rush your own healing beforehand and you meet somebody, you're not presenting your true self, because you're not even at that point yet.
Right.
You're not purposely misguiding them, but you're not there yet, you know? And so then that person starts to, you know, develop a relationship with someone that's not even who they really are.
Right.
And then things change. It's like, well, what happened? It's like, well, it turns out when I first met you, I was presenting myself like this, but that's not who I am.
Exactly.
So you need to spend that time alone. And I don't know, I really enjoy alone time. I like to, like I said, I like to just be out in nature and just kind of chill sometimes. It's good. Our most important relationship is with ourself and with spirit. Yeah. And once we get that settled, then we can kind of build on it. But you need that foundation. Yes. You need the foundation. We want what's next. We want to rush. But it's like you don't want to skip to the end of the book. Yeah. The story lies in all the chapters and pages in between. You know, and so we need to enjoy that as we go through it. The hardships as well as the good times. Everybody wants all the sweet, but they don't want the sour. Right. You need to have both. You can't have just one or the other.
You have to.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure everybody that's listening is like, preach, because it's true. And it's like so eloquently put. However, you have to remember that, like, it's hard, guys. This is difficult. It's difficult to do this. Yeah. So we're not saying like, yeah, just go ahead and enjoy being small when you're standing on the beach and pick up the shells that resonate with you. Like
you're probably crying and it's an ugly cry
Yes.
and you feel like absolute garbage and like my life is going down the toilet. And maybe it is.
Right.
Maybe it is, but I don't know. I stop and I think to myself, you know what? Yeah, it's a struggle and it's absolutely disgusting to have to go through sometimes. But there's also beauty in that.
Right.
Because we all do it. It's
Right.
part of the human experience. We're
Right.
all screwed at some point. We always get kicked when we're down. Somehow we think we're doing right. Everyone's always the hero in their own story,
Exactly.
right? We're the
Yeah.
hero or
Yeah.
we're the victim. We're never the
Yeah.
villain.
No, yeah. We're
Right?
always, we're
But
always like,
somehow
"Oh, this
everybody else is
happened." Yeah.
awful. We all take turns playing each role, you know, but it's who you intend to be.
Right.
And every day there's still that opportunity to make that change. Maybe
Right.
you've been the villain for a long time and it's become so comfortable. You're like, well, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be. You just have to make those changes. And there's going to be days even when you want to be better and you're still kind of a garbage person.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But you just have to be cognizant of it and you have to daily make the effort to
Yeah.
be better and be like, okay, I can be better than I was yesterday. I can try to make amends with people, try to forgive
Yes.
people. And you know, and sometimes you offer your forgiveness to somebody and they don't even want it or they don't even care.
Right.
But it's important for us just to move forward and be like, so one of the stories I tell a lot with my my magical mystery box lecture that I do, right?
So Dustin, just so you guys know, Dustin has so many different lectures. So that's why he's like, I love the what's next lecture. That's
Right.
my personal favorite.
That's a
So
good
that's
one.
why I'm like, let's talk about it. But he has so many different ones. You're
There's a
such a
lot.
talented being. So
Well, thank you. I just really, my brain doesn't shut off. So there's a lot of garbage in there. I have to filter through and find, it's like sifting for gold.
Right.
There's a lot of rubble and nonsense.
right.
But there's some good little nuggets of joy in there. But it's a magical mystery box is just a box filled with random stuff, but each thing has a story. And one of the things that's in there a lot is a boat. And the boat is about our journey. Like back in the day before, you know, you could just Uber everywhere. You know, a lot of times where people lived, you have to take a ferry from place to place. There's not even
Yes.
bridges, right?
Yes.
Like we're
Yeah.
going way back. I like old days. But like you would have to pay the ferryman to get you from one point in your journey to the next. And I feel like all of our relationships, whether they be friendship, whether they be family, whether they be romantic, whatever it might be, there's a ferryman there. And that's whoever that person is in your relationship with. And they're there to get you from one point in your journey to another. And we don't know what that point is. We don't know, is it going to end in 2 days? Is it going to end in 2 years? Is this going to be almost a lifetime with this person? We don't know when we get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does have to come to an end, they have to go their way. We have to go ours. We don't always have to look back with anger. We don't
Right.
always have to hate that person. We
Right.
could be thankful for the good days that we had on that journey and be like, okay, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I learned a lot here. This meant a lot to me. And celebrate those good moments.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to just throw everything out, like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Something goes wrong at the end. We're like, my God, that person was always garbage. I always
Right.
hated them. I was like, no, you
Right.
didn't.
Yeah.
Like you enjoyed a lot of good times and you had a lot of growth during that time. So just be thankful, wish them well. Hell, wish them well, but wish better for yourself.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes.
But don't wish hate or anger or negativity on somebody because you're just polluting the, I don't know, in my head, I always think you're polluting the spiritual tide. You know, like you don't want to piss in the water because we're all going to swim in the water.
Exactly. And
so
also
just
keep
be
in-
nice.
I mean, when you put that type of energy out, that's the universe is just going to say, okay, fine, we're going to send you another lesson then.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so nobody wins,
Right,
right? And there's
exactly.
that karma connection, right? So if you're going to continue, obviously it's hard because we don't always get our way.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you put that type of energy out, it's going to come back. So
Yeah.
we have to be mindful of
Absolutely.
the energy that we put out there.
I think it was Martin Luther King. It said something like throwing darkness upon darkness never does anything to help the light.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think about that. Like love can never grow and kindness can never grow if all we're doing is being angry about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
so funny because you go on like Facebook and stuff and everyone's like, oh, I'm all about love and light and I've got my crystals and I'm in a good
Right.
juju. And then like 2 posts later, they're like ripping somebody down about how much they hate them. And it's like, no, like that does not, your message is not cohesive with itself. Like,
Right,
And it's
right.
okay to be upset. Like it's a very
Right.
human thing to be like, oh, I'm upset about something, but like you can't focus on it. You can't dwell on it and you definitely can't contribute to it.
Exactly.
You know, because that's not going to resonate with yourself. And
Exactly.
again, like you said, you're going to get more messages of, okay, you didn't learn the lesson yet.
Right.
I guess we'll try this again.
Right.
And then you're
Right.
like, why am I not getting anywhere?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And it's so funny. So I want to add this like little, I love pulling oracle cards and doing cards and things like that. And whenever I get my cards done, it was always like, I'm like, all right, let's focus in on my love life or whatever, you know, like I'd
Yeah.
always set this intention. And all the time my cards would be, you're going to have a successful career. You're successful. Enjoy this success, you know? So in my mind, I'm just thinking, I'm like, awesome, but what about my love life?
Right.
And so, and I thought, I'm like, well, I think I'm doing okay. You know, and so I just trusted the process and, you know, my career has changed a little bit. Things have been going pretty well, even better than had expected. And then all of a sudden, my cards started changing a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, so this is pretty good because now it's not all on career anymore, you know? And I'm like, maybe that was the way of the universe just letting me know, like, no, keep going. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And it did.
Yeah.
But that wasn't my focus. I wasn't focused. My focus was like, love life, you know, love life. And so, yeah, the reality is like the universe always knows, you know? So when we talk about being negative to someone or playing the victim or calling someone a villain and like you said, using that hate and having that hateful energy towards it, the universe is going to say, you know what, you're not ready for any of this. Nope. We got to do some self-work on yourself first before you get all the things that you're supposed to be getting in your life. So it's so important to be mindful.
It's trying to get that foundation built, I think, you know, and a lot of times, like you said, you know, you're focused on love life or whatever people might be focused on. It's not what you need at that time. As much as it may be what you want at that time, it's not what you need at that time, you know, so you need to go through the process to build that firm foundation so that when the things that you're asking for, the things that you want are finally granted to you, you finally achieve them, you've got a firm base to build upon.
Exactly.
You know, you can't just get what you want all the time. It sounds like it'd be nice, but you just can't have it all the time, you know? And I think sometimes, you know, now that I'm further along in the journey and I still get tons of screw ups and hiccups and problems, but I always feel like when they come, I'm like, okay, like I know things are going to get better on the other side of this. I just got to figure out a way around it or a way over it or through it or whatever it might be. And it might take a little while, you know, but I think something that we have to keep in mind too is that our perception controls so much of who we are.
Yes.
Our life is perception. I've actually started this new thing that I'm working on. Life is a Rorschach test. And it's just all about like our perception of things, you know, and it's how we look at everything that comes, both the good and the bad in our lives. And sometimes those things that seem so insurmountable, they're like, oh, why is this going to happen to me? I'm never going to get by this. This is never going to be better. It's a mountain from afar, but then the closer you get to it, the more you realize it's more of a hill,
right?
You know, and there's going to be a way for you to get through it. And all the things that we go through in getting to that point make us stronger so that when we do finally get to whatever that adversarial thing is in our life, we're stronger than we ever thought we were.
Absolutely.
And now it's going to be easier, not easy, but easier for us to get over it. And then we'll start to find the valley that's on the other side. We'll find the better things that are yet to come for us. But it's just not going to be flat level land or a nice easy downhill stroll.
No,
it's going to be some struggle.
Is. Yeah.
But people get mad like, oh well, if it was just that easy. If it was just that easy, you wouldn't want it. You wouldn't care.
Exactly.
You know, it would just be like, it would be every day. It would be mundane. It wouldn't be worth anything. So yeah, the struggle sucks. Those ugly days of crying, sitting by the ocean, wondering why is my life in absolute turmoil. Good things come out of it, but you have to get through it.
And the majority of people that are listening, including myself, I feel like we've been there. We can relate to what you're saying because it's, you know, you get to a point where you think you're crossing the T's, you're dotting the I's, life is going exactly the way that it should, but why isn't it going the way that you want it to go?
Right.
And you hit the nail on the head when you said it's almost that, you know, that beaver energy. It's the beaver spirit, which is building that foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Indeed.
You have to build that foundation, that healthy foundation. So you can pull all the oracle cards that you want.
Yeah.
The oracle cards are going to say, hey, you need, you know, they're going to tell you what it is because it's the energy around them.
Yeah.
Guys, that's what oracle cards, angel cards are. Like you can obviously guided by the angels, guided by our own intuition, but it's still that same energy that we're going to pull in. So that's why it's important to, if you're trying to find the answers, if you're trying to find the what, when, where, and why, sometimes you just have to sit with it and have that trust. It all goes back, guys, to having that trust that the universe is going to provide you with what you need and not what you want. Right.
Have that patience, enjoy the little journeys, enjoy the little sidebar journeys. Enjoy the rough times, you know, find that commonality in the fact that we're all broken. You know, I always look at things and I try to just like I said, it's a lot of it is perspective, and I try to be thoughtful of stuff that people know. Like, from times that I grew up going to church and everything, and just looking at ornate like stained glass and that kind of stuff, I'm like completely broken. They're all just shards of broken other things, but it comes together in a beautiful way. And I think that, you may get to a point like, I mean, I'm still completely screwed up, and I think I know what I'm doing, but
Right.
I think there's a great lesson in the universe making you uncomfortable. Like, oh, you thought you had it all together and we built the foundation. Now you got what you wanted. Well, how about a little earthquake? How about we screw up with some shit? And you're like, come on. I'm like, I had it going. But you find that what you build the second time is even better.
Exactly.
And so that's what you need to, that's what you need to focus on. So just when you think you got it all going, be ready.
Yes, like I had a shop here for 3 years, and it was a great little shop, and I had all these events going on. It was beautiful. I loved it. Yeah. And
I was there the day you moved into that little shop.
We did an event together the very first day, the opening. Yeah.
That was great.
July 1st, 2017.
Yeah.
That was it.
And then a car went through it and ruined everything. A literal car drove through the building.
Yes,
crazy.
Because at that time, it was during COVID, so I couldn't do in-person readings anymore. So I was limited on my availability, and so I had this building that I was still paying for on a month-to-month basis. Well, I had a lease, so I was paying for everything, but yet I couldn't utilize it. And I didn't know, because at the time, I was thinking, all right, is COVID really going to knock us out, where all the brick-and-mortar businesses are going to just go away? We don't know. So I was thinking on whether or not to sign my lease again, and literally my brain works too fast than my
I get it.
than my speaking. Or is it because I didn't have enough coffee today? Maybe. I'm not sure.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. But yes, so I was really stressed out about what to do, and a car drove through. A car literally drove through my shop, where there was a car sitting in my shop, and I did not know what to do. But that was a huge validation, where I took it as the universe saying, okay, Tiff, don't worry. Like, I know your livelihood was completely destroyed, but we got a better plan for you.
Yeah. Right.
Even when it comes to, I always talk about relationships, right? Like divorces, breakups. I am like eating this microphone. I'm very aggressive in my talking.
That's why the foam thing's on there. You're good.
But when it comes to like, or even jobs, losing jobs, I was at my job for 9 years, and I was scared to leave it because it gave me health insurance, and it was the most money I ever made. And I don't have a college degree. So I was really intimidated and scared to do anything else, because I thought that was going to be as good as it gets, and that was going to be my life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I was settling, and lo and behold, I got laid off. So my employer it wasn't just me, it was a couple other people as well. They did not care how long people were at the company. I got laid off, and I literally, and I'll tell you guys, I was going through a divorce at the time too. So I had no job. I lost a husband. The house that I worked so hard to pay for was now no longer mine, because it was his. And let's top it off, I got into my very first car accident.
Oh, jeez.
So I lost my car.
Yeah.
So I literally had, in my mind, nothing. So I had to dig down deep and do the healing work on myself.
Right.
And I had that choice, like, am I going to sink or swim? What's going to happen to me? And I can remember waking up, because I was back home living with my mom, and thinking to myself, like, what am I going to do? Right. And the only answer that I had was, I'm going to do what makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, I realized the only thing that made me happy was actually doing readings. Yeah. Doing readings. I was already a Reiki master teacher, but I knew I loved doing readings. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. But then, okay, this is let's wait. We can't like just jump in and do readings and that's it, right? Like, I didn't have a clientele. Like, I had my friends and some people that were like, oh yeah, I'll tell my mom-in-law about you. And I'm like, cool, that'll be great. So I had to really build it. So the reality part is, because I couldn't just jump into it, I had to get a job that offered me what I needed, survival stuff. I needed an income. So I could get my own place.
Right.
I needed health insurance because
you need it.
Yeah, I need health insurance. Yeah, so I needed finances, like financial backing, and I needed that. So I went and got a job, And it wasn't a career, but it was a job, and it provided me with what I needed. I was with that job for 3 years.
Yeah.
And literally, when I talk, how many times have I said literally today?
Literally is a pretty good word today, yeah.
It's literally.
This episode sponsored by literally.
Literally. So ultimately, I'll switch it to ultimately. But ultimately, I had to make that decision where 3 years into this job, I had hardly any money saved, but I got my own apartment.
Yeah.
Got my own apartment, and I was able to get a car. And I was able to progress very, very slowly, but it allowed me that moment to appreciate everything.
Right.
And so from that point on, when I learned to appreciate and that gratitude, all of a sudden I started to get more clients, more events, more connections with the paranormal field, doing more. And I got to a point where I had to make that decision. And so I quit my job, and now
you're here.
Yeah.
So
10 years later, I'm here, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah.
But for you guys that are like, okay, I want this to happen now. Guys, I literally was forced out. I was forced, pushed out. And then of all areas of my life, I was forced out. And then I had to be be mindful of, okay, the reality is, as much as I want to do my mediumship full time right now, I just didn't have the clientele. So I had to get a job. I had to make the finances so I could build my surroundings, build that foundation. So now I can really enjoy what I'm doing now.
Yeah. The universe finds a way to make us uncomfortable when there's a need for growth. And you were in a place where at one point, it was very comfortable. You had the house that you liked. You had the husband that you liked. You had a job that was secure. Everything seemed fine. Checked all the boxes. Did all the things that you needed to do. But it wasn't what you were meant to do.
Yes.
And at the time, you didn't know it. But so Tiffany Rice now, looking back at Tiffany Rice from that time, at that time, you were like, oh, this is all I really wanted. But then you would have never achieved all this. If you didn't go through all that loss, all that pain, all that struggle, you would never have gotten this. Now, would you trade what you have now for what you had then?
No, there's no looking back.
Right? You wouldn't want to be that person anymore.
I have to say, a friend of mine, she said the best thing to me, and this was Sunday. We were driving, and I was talking on the phone with her. And the reason why I'm bringing up that I was driving while talking on the phone is because she said, well, we think about our lives. There's a reason why the rear view mirror is so small.
She stole that from me. That's one of my YouTube
Stop
videos.
It.
I'm telling you.
Really?
I have a YouTube video, and I have a rear view mirror, and that's what I talk about. I think it's important. Like, the windshield is where we're going, so we need to look ahead. Like, the rear view is small because it's not as important where we've been. It's important to some point because we need to grow from something.
Yeah.
But it's so much more important that we are focused on where we're heading, and I think people miss that quite a bit.
We're all guilty. Most of us. I can't say we're all guilty, but most of us are guilty.
Yeah, all of us look back at something, and it's good to look back to remember where you came from. You know, like the other day it was stupid, but I was out shopping and I walked by, and it took me a minute. Like, I didn't even recognize the place because everything had changed. But I walked by where my high school sweetheart worked. And I walked by this place. I'm like, oh, I just remember coming picking up here and like driving her back to her house and everything. And it's like, and I stopped. I'm like, wow, that was almost 30 years ago. Wow. But for that moment in time, and this is why I think it's interesting too. And I know we've been talking a lot about spirit and about our goals and our ambitions, but when people talk about, ghosts don't exist, spirits would never come back to linger. Are you kidding? They wouldn't come back to linger to do anything? We're still here.
Right.
And we still drive by our old neighborhoods. We still revisit old memories. It's still important where we came from, but it'll never be as important as where we're going.
Exactly.
And I was just kidding. I don't think your friend stole that from me. I'm sure.
No.
I'm sure it's more of a common thought than I thought it was at the time. But
I mean, she didn't say, I'm going to be quoting. Like, it wasn't a quote, but she was just saying, because I was driving and that's what she brought up. And I'm like, that's so true. Yeah.
Always focus ahead. That's it.
And that's, but I will sympathize with everybody that's going through an extremely tough time in their life right now, where they just feel like, because when you're in it, you're in it.
Oh, it's awful.
It's
all you can see. And that's the problem, is it becomes all we can see. We hyper focus upon it. But then, as you know, too, with energy, when you hyper-focus upon something, you're feeding it more energy. What's it do? It just makes it worse.
Yes.
You know, like, you have to be able to see that this is not an insurmountable time, that there will be better times on the back end of this. No matter how much it looks like it sucks right now and you think, I'll never get through this, you will.
Right.
And right now it doesn't seem possible, and I get it, and it sucks, and we all go through it. And even once you get through that, there might be some more nonsense down the road. But you have to believe that it's going to get better. If all you do is sit and think, this is awful, I'm never going to get through this, then yeah, you may not. But you need to know that it's possible, and you have to believe it for yourself. Change that energy and continue to go forward with it.
And it will, I've seen it happen myself, things can change on a whim so quickly.
Right.
So it's really being mindful of putting that mindset and that intention out there for your highest and greatest good. I say it in every single one of these episodes, you have to do it. But as we always focus in on the bad things,
we've been conditioned to do that.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, I just lost my job, or a car drove through my shop, but we don't see that big picture, that windshield. Like it's like, no, the universe is going to provide for you.
Yeah. We can't see it from where we are sometimes. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Like you're focused on that one piece, and you keep trying to slam it, and it's like, why won't it fit? It should fit right here. This is where I want it to fit.
Exactly.
It should fit here. And you don't see it at the time, but then if we can step away from it in retrospect, or when we finally get through it, we take a step back and we look like, oh yeah, that piece couldn't have fit there because then I couldn't have made this like beautiful picture. All the rest of the things that are connected to this moment wouldn't fit there. It had to fit in another place.
Exactly.
So we can't have it all the time when we want it. We can't have it the way we want it. It sucks, and we think it's awful, and it is. But when you finally get through it, you start to say, oh, okay, like, yeah, this makes sense now. I can see when looking back why this couldn't continue.
Yeah.
I mean, just like it's like, we talk about love and romance. It's a big part of who we are.
Right.
Like our spiritual beings crave love.
Yeah.
Our human condition is required to want other people around us. We want to be hugged. We want to be touched. We want to feel important. And, but like, think about like who that person was for you in high school or in college. That was your everything. This was the person. This was going to be it. I'm going to love this person forever. And then it all falls apart and you're like, gosh, geez, like now what do I do?
Right.
But then like, further down the road, you're like, yeah, I couldn't have stayed there. Because even the person that you were at that time isn't who you are now. And now you're like, yeah, that wouldn't have made sense. It doesn't mean anything bad. We don't wish them ill. Like, we're thankful for the journey at the time. But we were so hyper-focused on this is the person, this is the one.
Yes.
And then as soon as they're not the one, we're like, wait, what just happened?
Why? Why did we do this? Yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, actually. Yep. And you have to realize that you have to set yourself up for this particular, I feel like sometimes we get paired up with partners where we're at in that journey. Mm-hmm. But as we realize that we're constantly evolving as humans, and evolving is moving up.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and
sometimes
and
we
hopefully
outgrow
they
them.
Move up. Yeah, they'll outgrow us.
Right, exactly. It could go either way sometimes, We don't always grow at the same pace. So sometimes one of us moves on to all of a sudden other things are important,
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're young, it's like, oh, let's party and let's have drinks and let's do all this stuff. But then like, you don't want to be that guy when you're 50 or 60. It's like, I don't, I still enjoy a tasty beverage, but I don't want to go out to the clubs every night.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't.
No,
I'm like,
my God.
Do they close at 9? Like nowadays, seriously.
Is there an early bird one with a buffet?
Literally. Literally, there was something, was it like our event that we were talking? Oh no, I was talking to a mutual friend, Linda of ours, and she's like, okay, and then like we were talking about setting up an event and it was like went till 11 and I'm like, whoa, like who's up late. Till 11? We got maybe like 7:30 at best.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. We all change as we grow.
Yes.
That's
Whereas
good.
Before I'm like, overnight investigation, sign me up.
Yeah, for
now
sure.
I'm like,
We'll get pizza around 2 a.m. We'll stay up. I'm like, nope, I want to be at the hotel watching Ancient Aliens by 11 o'clock at the latest.
Exactly. Well, I'm so glad that you were part of coming on today and talking, because I think this is definitely one of my longer episodes, but I wanted it. There was just so much information and we were so in tune to what was happening. And I feel like whenever I'm connected like this, our listeners are definitely needing to hear
somebody
it.
Needs the message out there.
Exactly.
So, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Oh my
It's been
gosh,
great.
you're welcome. And how can people find you?
Very easy to find at dustinpari.com. Everything's on there. We've got YouTube links, we've got videos, we've got Patreon, and we've got a lot of events coming up. So it's just dustinpari.com.
And you're jumping on that TikTok vibe.
Yes. I'm going to start doing the tick and the talk like all the kids are doing. So I'm learning my way forward. With all this stuff.
Yes. So thank you again. And guys, until next time, we will be bringing on more guests and more exciting conversations. So I hope everybody has a good day, and always remember, we're never truly alone.